So in this video, I am interviewing Jdun. So Jdun has been trading options and stocks, primarily options. And in this interview, we go down into his history, how he got started, in the trading world, the biggest lessons he's learned, his trading styles, his trading setups, the way he journals, what his journal methods are, and just kind of going into his full walkthrough of his day and so on. Like I said, this interview is packed with so much knowledge, so much information. I've been watching Jay Dunn for quite some time, and seeing him have 50, 60, 70,000 months back to back to back has been super inspirational. And I wanted to share it with you guys. So I hope you guys find a lot of value in this. Let's get started. What is going on, Jacob? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you doing?
Good. Where are you based out of?
I'm based in Denver, Colorado. I'm originally from Nebraska, but I've been in Denver for the past 6 going on 7 years, and I love it, man.
Oh man, it's probably like freezing cold, right?
I look outside and there's snow outside. Got a nice view of the mountains, but yeah, it's cold a lot of the time for sure.
Nice. So first and foremost, wanted to dive into your trading journey. I think you have a really exciting story. I first came across you honestly on TikTok. I went on TikTok. Every time I would go on, I would see this guy, Team Bull. I was like, who the hell is this guy? And I start, following you, and I'm like, oh, he's probably just another TikTok trader. And honestly, after following you for, I think it's been over a year now, I'm like, no, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. He provides tons and tons of real value. And I was like, you know what? It would be great to have you on and just kind of, break all of that down. So with that being said, let's go to the beginning, right? When did you get started? What kind of intrigued you about trading? Let's just go into the whole background.
So first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on. Going into that, it was like probably 6 years ago or so. I was on YouTube. Growing up, we didn't come from a family of money. I have a single mom. Dad went to prison when I was young. So it was always, no, this isn't some feel sorry for me thing. It's just reality is I didn't come from any money or have any background to have as a crutch per se. So I'm on YouTube. I'm delivery driving for Jimmy John's. I'm working other odd jobs. And I'm like, okay, I have a high school degree. I dropped out, but I got my GED. I went to 2 years of college. That wasn't for me as well. And I was like, I need to find a way to get rich. I need to find a way to make money. How can I do that? So I start looking at YouTube. I'm watching, stuff on the internet, Twitter, all that stuff isn't as developed as it is today, especially not like TikTok, as you said, we found each other on.
Yeah.
And, Instagram, all that's kind of still in its, growing phases. And I'm on YouTube and I see people like yourself. You were one of the first people I came across, have the nice car back in the day, big 10, 20, 50K days. I see some of the other people, Ross Warrior Trading, all those people that have been in the game for, 7, 8, 9 years. And the point of that being is I was like, okay, if these people can make 50,000 a day, 50,000 a week, whatever it is, so can I. And so right off the rip, I didn't give myself a choice to succeed or not. Now, I didn't just see, your video or see someone else's video and say, okay, you know what, like I'm going to go and I'm going to make 50 grand tomorrow. And I think especially now with social media, how it is and how easily attainable information is on Instagram and TikTok and all that, that people have this perception that trading is really easy. And, oh, if he made 50K today, I can make it tomorrow. So I want to point this out that I didn't start trading, balls to the walls right away. I took my time. I bought a lot of courses, Stock Market Lab being one of them back in the day. And I took a lot of time. I was working, studying off and on. And I really started hitting trading full time, probably like 3.5, 4 years ago is when I really started going, okay, I want to do this a lot. I want to go full time. I was still making money on the side back then, as I think every trader should. I don't think you should have, 6 months of profitability and then quit your job in life and just trade. Now that goes back and forth, but at least it wasn't for me. I liked having that backup, and it just kind of flowed. So I went through a lot of losses at first. I went through a lot of frustrations, as I'm sure we'll get to later.
Yeah.
And trading was something for me that, again, I didn't give myself an option to fail. It wasn't, okay, I might fail this and I might have to have a backup. Like I didn't have anything to back up on. There was no college degree. There was no, trust fund there. There was nothing else for me. So it was, I learned to trade or basically I die. And I know that sounds extreme, but that was the mindset I had. And honestly, with something as difficult as trading is to learn, I think it's almost like a mindset you almost have to have,
Yeah. No, I get that. Wow. So 6 years. So you get into trading 6 years, and then you said 4 years ago. So year two is when you started taking it serious. And when you said you started taking it serious, I'm assuming that's when you started educating yourself and things like that. So the first 2 years you weren't educating yourself. You're just kind of, I guess, dangling around with the markets.
Yeah, I was like, I was buying courses, I was looking at Discords, I was, joining this, leaving that, doing all that, but I wasn't at my computer every morning at 7:30. That's when it opens in Colorado time, like getting that much needed screen time. I wasn't sitting there like, okay, I'm going to dedicate a few hours a day to strictly watching this price action, strictly, watching how trades executing trades myself. And I wasn't taking it as seriously as I should have been. Otherwise, my learning curve probably would have been much less. Right. But, for me, it gave me uh, that cushion, I guess you could say, to really slowly to learn that, this isn't a rushed process. And with that too, when I fully started trading and fully started going at it, I was really motivated to just keep going. And with that too, I wanted to say that, we met on TikTok, right? Or
Yeah.
you found Team Bull and myself, Jdun, on TikTok. Before all of this, I'd been trading before the TikTok. Oh gosh, I think I made the TikTok back in the end of 2020. And the reason I say that is I'd been trading for over a year then. Now, after that, I'd been making $500, $1,000 a day. And I told a few friends, like, I was trying to put all my friends on the trading. I was like, dude, like, this is awesome. Like, I've been learning for a while. I'm making decent money. You guys should learn. So I start this little Discord. It was Mile High Trading back at the time, had like six, like, just me and six of my friends, just a few of us. And I had no social media. Like, I'm an introvert. I just liked trading. I found it fascinating. And I think I had like 500 followers on Instagram from like high school, no Twitter, no YouTube, nothing. So I'm scrolling on TikTok one day, and before that, I didn't even have it. I've never been like a big scroller. I see these trading videos come up, and I was like, like, maybe I can teach people what I'm doing, and I can help people learn if I can, learn how to make a little video. So that was actually my first platform. Somehow the algo liked what it was seeing and blew it up, which has been blessing and a curse. Blessing, helping a lot of people learn, giving people solid, real education. And curse, there's a lot of not so nice people on the internet, I
Of
guess you
course.
could say.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
So, it's cool. It's been nice being able to help people and connect with people like you. And the whole point of me saying that was that, I'd been trading before that, and it just kind of helped get the message out and, I guess, expand the reach, expand my network of people to, really learn from and to grow with, like we're doing here. So
Oh, absolutely. No, you guys, like I said before, you guys have done, a phenomenal job. And I think what you are sharing with the world and the messages you are putting out is real trading education. It's not, hey, let's get rich overnight and type things like that. But going into that now, when you were when you started taking trading seriously, right? And I kind of want to emphasize on that because a lot of traders, when you speak to them, they'll say, I've been trading for 4 years, but I'm not consistent. And I would ask them, are you serious about trading? And they would say yes, but their actions wouldn't say so. So when you got serious about it and you're like, this is it, I have to kind of take this serious, this is it, there's no way out. What, like, besides the education aspect, what did you do in your trading that kind of gave you that boost to, go to that, to a consistency level?
So something for me that was really, really big with my trading, and that I think we have an epidemic of in just traders in general, is a lack of discipline, and also having, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green days in a row. And then what does that sixth red day do? It wipes out all those gains.
Yeah.
So the reason I say that is that when I started getting serious about my trading, I was like, okay, I need to really start respecting risk, but not being afraid of it. So if you go into every trade afraid to lose money, afraid to lose, afraid to damage your ego, you're going to end up getting checked over and over and over again. And it's just going to be a repetitive cycle. And that's the cycle that I see a lot of traders in. And I was in that cycle once. So I'm mentioning this is that, you'll have maybe a green day or a green week, or maybe even a green month, but then traders wipe it all out with one big loss because they, whether they recognize it or not, they don't want to hurt their ego. They don't want to feel like a loser. They don't, they refuse to cut that loss. They overposition themselves, and then it wipes out a bunch of gains, which, that was a problem of mine starting out. I would have, now that being said, thankfully it didn't end up being blown accounts, but it ended up being in very frustrating days of, a few days in a row green, a red loss that wipes it all out, rinse and repeat. So I think that one thing that really helped with my trading was not only bettering my psychology, because I think that now people say trading is 80% psychology, 90% psychology, which I agree with to a, to some extent.
Hmm.
But I think for me, it was more building a system, because I see a lot of traders that are trying to trade, bear flags, bull flags, a double top, but they have nothing else besides these basic indicators and basic chart patterns. And they're trading with no system. They don't have a system of risk management. They don't have a system of position sizing. They don't have a system that, okay, this trade might need to have 2 or 3 confirmations. Otherwise, I am not taking it.
Yeah.
So as far as what helped me get over that hump, it was building a system. It was really diving into my education, and not just education, but watching price action, watching how things react, getting screen time, and therefore with more conviction in my setups and more conviction and confidence in myself. That is a base you can build psychology on. You can't just build psychology on no skill. Like, you know what? I have the strongest mind ever. I don't care if I lose because I have the best trading psychology ever. Like, that's not a sustainable strategy,
No, that's actually a really interesting point that you just brought up. You need to have a system to build the psychology on. I think that's the first time I heard about that or looked at it from that perspective. And I'm thinking about it right now. That actually makes so much sense to, build the system and then from there start breaking down the psychological barriers you have. Because with new strategies, new trading styles, you'll start seeing new roadblocks that you as a person start having. That's really interesting. So how'd you just curious about how'd you kind of think? Did you think about that before or during the process?
So I kind of looked at myself and I'm like, every trade I took, I was kind of second guessing myself. And I didn't have like a set of rules or even like a set, routine every day that I find my trades on. It has to confirm this to do this, or, so on. So I didn't just go into trading with, okay, I need to find a system, then I can build psychology on it. But what happened was, after, time and time again, looking at these charts, and not only that, watching what other traders are struggling with too, I noticed a common trend within myself and others that people are just taking these random trades. And there's no consistency. There's no routine. And I like to relate it to like basketball. I was a former athlete. And if you could sit there and believe to yourself and watch a bunch of basketball and think, I am the best shooter in the world, I am going to drain every three. And even with that best confidence in psychology, if you don't go and put in the reps and get your form down and know, your body stance and everything that goes along with the dynamics of shooting, you're not ever like, your psychology is not going to matter.
Yeah.
Right. The shot is still what matters. Now, obviously, if you have a great shot, but you have no confidence or, your mental isn't right, you're not going to make as many. So I kind of took that mindset into trading of, I need to build my psychology up. I've had my fair share of psychology issues, whether it be being impulsive with trades, whether it be anxiety getting to me in trades, whether it be my ego getting in the way, not wanting to lose or letting a red trade get bigger than it should be. All those things I dealt with too. It's been a long process that having more conviction, more screen time, and having a system specifically using multiple timeframes, we'll get to that later, has really helped and has helped me keep those losses smaller and have more wins and bigger wins too.
Interesting. Okay. No, interesting. It's always, to me, it's always interesting hearing different traders talk about their journey of when they took it serious, when things start clicking, what they start doing. And you start seeing that a lot of people kind of have the similar aspect of, looking at the markets, especially the successful traders. So every time I speak to someone, especially a successful trader like yourself, I learned so much new things. I'm like, wow, that's a new way to look at it. Wow, that's a cool way to look at things, and start getting a, deeper dive into it. So now, going into some of the challenges early on, right? And for me, the early on stages are very important because it's very easy for me to talk about your success now, how you are having these massive months, massive days, and so on. But I like to know more about the struggles you had early on and what struggles you went through. So some of the primary struggles you faced in your trading journey, in terms of finding consistency, in terms of emotional battles, in terms of maybe you had negative processes that weren't allowing you to get forward. What was that like? And then what did you do to overcome that? This is like before you achieve consistency or real profitability.
So I think that my biggest hurdle for myself, and there was a lot of hurdles, we'll get to each one, but my biggest by far, that I was not a good loser. I didn't like losing. I don't think anyone necessarily loves losing, but for me, being a former athlete, like, I just did not like losing, and I was a bad loser. And a phrase that I tell a lot of new traders and that I kind of live by is, the best loser wins in trading. And I've actually seen you talk about this a lot. You're like, I can tell how well you're going to do as a trader by your losses.
Yeah.
I don't care about your wins. You can make 50K a day for 10 days straight, make 500 grand. And then if on that 11th day, you lose, 700 grand, it doesn't matter. So for me, one of the biggest hurdles was that I did not like losing. I had a sore ego. I didn't want to think of it like that. I wanted to think of it as, I should be right more because, I've taken these courses and, the market owes me something. The market doesn't owe me anything. And that was a big mindset battle I had to get through.
How long did that take you to come over that hurdle? Because that's such a tough hurdle.
Oh my gosh. And honestly, I can't even say I'm not going to sit here and say that it's completely just gone. That thought is always back there. You never want to be wrong. So to say that I'm cured from it would be a lie, but to really take it and put it in the passenger seat, put my emotions in the passenger seat, because you're never going to get rid of your emotions trading. And I think that's a common misconception too, is you're going to be sitting here like a robot. Obviously you want to trade like a robot in some senses, but to put it in the passenger seat for me, goodness, took a lot of decent sized losses, a lot of big losses, and just months and months of, really sticking to it. Journaling, as far as this interview goes, I used to do a lot of journaling on paper. I still write some stuff down on paper, but if I would have had something like TradeZella, upload my trades and really look and not just be able to, type out what I'm doing wrong, but to see, hey, Jdun, your average winning trade is, let's say 100. Your average losing trade is, 150 or 125, or, even break even 100. Like that would have helped a lot, just seeing it.
Yeah.
Even simple things of just being able to see your results from a different perspective every day would have been a game changer for me. Because I think a lot of traders neglect that because it's hard to look at the truth.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with something like that, if you're a bad loser, which I was definitely that at one point in my life, I didn't want to look at that from a different perspective. I didn't want to have to sit there after the day was done and take acknowledgement for my mistakes, take accountability for it. It was the market's fault. It was the guy I was learning from's fault. It was everyone's fault but mine. And I think that's a big problem that traders have, is that accountability has to be first. The market doesn't owe me anything. And, one thing that has really, really, really helped that is journaling down, taking responsibility for whether I win or whether I lose, and really looking at the mistakes I made every single day after the trading day for, years now, and just drilling that into my head, seeing what works right, seeing what works wrong, and getting that experience and screen time to learn what works, learn what doesn't, and to improve every single day. Because I think that, you talk about this a lot too, that as traders, we're always students of the game.
Yeah.
You're 9 years in, going on year 10, and I'm sure you're still learning something new every day too.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, even on these calls, like even right now, there's things I'm learning, different perspectives, different point of views on situations that I grasp. And even this far in, I'm still like, wow, like I've learned this from this person. I've learned that from this person. I'm going to take, a page out of this person's book for this, or the way he trades or she trades. And there's so much going on, and it's a continuous battle. And I also really like, and I want to reemphasize on it, how you said you put your struggles and emotional barriers in the passenger seat and you don't completely get rid of it. I think a lot of traders kind of say, well, you need to eliminate emotions. And I 100% agree with you. You cannot, as humans, we can't eliminate emotions. That's what makes us. We need to learn how to deal with those emotions. We need to have good systems and processes that help us, process them better, deal with them better. And like you said, and I like the saying a lot, you took your emotions and put them in the passenger seat, and then you knew how to manage it. I think that's a really, really big thing. Going into psychology a little bit, how, like, you seem like you know a lot about the trading from a psychology point. Did you read books, or were you just always a good understanding in psychology?
Dude, so I was never huge into school. I got decent grades, but the one classes that I really loved was psychology. I took AP Psych, all that good stuff, took psychology in college, and I've read a ton of self-help books. And I was not a disciplined person. I used to not be in shape. I used to.
No, I saw your video. Yeah, I was like, wow.
I used to eat crappy food. Like I used to do, substances I shouldn't use. Like I used to not have the discipline that I have now. And that's, a point I want to make to people, is that in trading, and honestly, kind of in life, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So yeah. I read a lot of self-help books, whether that be about productivity, whether that be about, finding mindfulness and using meditation. Like I've read a lot of books to better my mind, put those practices in place. And in turn, it's helped my trading a lot. And on the topic of psychology too, I think that a lot of traders are looking for that aha moment. Like I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure you've been asked 100 more times than this, like, hey, Umar, like when was your aha moment? When is this? When
I
is
was
this?
actually going to ask you that question next. Did you have an aha moment,
Yeah,
or like what was that like? Because
you
it
know,
doesn't exist. Yeah.
everyone's like, what people want is this. They want a point where trading is going to get easy. And I can tell you right now, trading is never going to get easy. It's not an easy thing. Like the word easy and trading should never go together. It should be like something that's banned. Just shouldn't go together. But what you get in terms of like an aha moment, I think, is there just becomes this almost flow state. You get in your flow state of trading, and it becomes to a point where you just have a system where, you take trades that work for your system, that have multiple confirmations that work well. You manage your risk, and you learn to do that while putting your emotions again in the passenger seat. And I think the ability to do that and not, to go on tilt and not to lose your temper and not to, completely lose at trading or, have super massive losses, is a big skill. And in turn is kind of like an aha moment that doesn't, like, no light bulb's just going to click on in your head. Like that's not, it doesn't exist. But you get to that flow state and you get to a point of your trading where you're just flowing, you're doing things, right. You're keeping your losses small. You're having your wins bigger. You're having more wins than losses, whatever it may be. And it just starts to work and becomes, kind of like second motion. It just flows.
No, makes sense. Yeah, no, I always like to ask traders where their aha moment was, because it helps me understand their perspective a lot. And the fact that you said there was an aha moment, I 100% agree with that. And I think traders need to understand that too, because people ask me the same question. Hey, Umar, when was your aha moment? When did everything click? And I'm like, honestly, never. Even now, like I'll have weeks it clicks and then it goes away. And I'm like, okay, well, how do I refigure this out? And it's the saying that it doesn't get easier. You just learn to deal with it better over time, right? You start seeing a better movement, better, like you said, flow state, things like that. But in terms of going into aha moments, when did you really start seeing consistency where you were like, okay, I can really scale this thing up. I can take it to the next level. Because, following you for a little over a year, I've seen your trading like grow tremendously. Your numbers, just looking at your P&L numbers, have grown, from a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand a day to now you're doing like six figures on a month to month. I know you had a big crazy trade on SPY a couple of months ago, right? I forgot what the number was. But I'm seeing that progress from the side, and I'm like, wow, right? So what was that in the early stages when you start seeing consistency? You said you spoke about looking at it from a psychological point, but in terms of from a technical point, what was that like? Did you have some setups? Did you have a risk management strategy? What was your focus to the market? Were you just looking at price action? What were you doing from a technical side in the early days? We'll go into the middle and the later days in a bit, but in the early days from the technical side.
So what's really helped me to level up from even just like, a year and a half, 2 years ago to now was I was still doing decent like 2 years ago. I was making $500, $1,000, $1,500 a day on average, give or take, trading decently. But one big key difference I noticed for myself was I learned myself a lot in these last few years. I've traded everything from, macro big picture supports and resistances to 1-minute breakouts. And I found that trading breakouts for me and like trading really high stress breakouts on things like what used to be expensive Tesla and Amazon and stuff, like it just I wasn't getting the risk reward ratio in return that I wanted.
Yeah.
So I used to be almost strictly a breakout trader. I would be the trader that looked for, bull flags and okay, this looks decent. Like this looks like a bull flag on the 5-minute. I'm going to take it. Or we're touching the VWAP on the 5-minute and maybe we have, a level of support here. I want to take it. But I didn't really put an emphasis on what truly is moving the markets, and that's price action. Now, I wasn't watching what does this candlestick mean? What does this wick mean? What's the overall structure of the market compared to the price action we're seeing intraday? So what's really helped me, even just go from like a 1 to 2K a day trader to 80K to 100K a month trader, 5K or so a day, was really taking an emphasis on one, multiple confirmations. Two, I'm kind of a multiple time frames freak, you could say. Like I'm always looking at different time frames. Having that as a point of my trading and really having higher probability setups. I'm not just going to take something because it looks decent. And that used to be me. I used to say, okay, bull flag, this looks decent. I'm going to put my capital in it like that. And I've been much more risk averse these days. I respect my risk a lot. And so if yesterday, for example, opening 2 hours, I didn't take a single trade. Now, 2 years ago, me, if I didn't take a trade, I was sitting there low key like, oh my gosh, I didn't take a trade this morning. Like I got to sit here all day and watch. Otherwise I might miss something. What am I going to do? But that's just, over time, that's just not how I am anymore. If I don't see something I like, I'm not putting my money in it. We have to look. And one thing for me was looking at the bigger picture of the stock market's not going away. I don't have to force trades. I'm going to lose more money over time forcing trades than I could potentially make, forcing this 1 or 2 or 3 trades that might work, and they might work great right now. But I've taken a different kind of risk perspective. I've looked for higher probability setups. I've found more of my levels in higher time frames, such as the hourly, the 4-hour, and the daily and the weekly, versus strictly watching the 1 minute and the 5 minute. And through a combination of those things, I've felt a lot more confident in my trades, which has allowed me to size up a little bit and to execute with more precision, I guess.
Makes sense. No, it makes sense. So a lot of it was just understanding more things about yourself, understanding what's working, what's not working, taking a deeper dive into all those things, right? Now going into that's kind of like the middle phase. Now, after the middle phase to recent trading, you progressed even more. So the first stage was the early days where you start seeing consistency and profitability. Then you start learning more about yourself and start getting to phase number 2. But now the level you're at now, what was done to get to the form you're at now? Not saying it's the final form, but the current stage. What was the differences?
So one big thing for me, I think, and this is on a psychological standpoint, is that I don't take previous days. I don't take missed executions. I don't take life problems into the trading day anymore. Now, I know that sounds very cliche, but I think
that's good. But how'd you get to that point? Is like, what do you do to get there? Because that's one thing a lot of people struggle with.
So for me, I've stuck to a very strict routine every day. I get up, and I know this sounds basic, but it's something I wasn't doing before. I knew if I wanted to get to that next level, if I wanted to get even from 1 to 2K a day to, let's say 5K a day, for example, just for numbers sake, that I would have to do something different. And for me, I didn't think it was just one drastic change. Like, okay, I just need to do this and I'm going to make thousands more. But, adding up a lot of little things, using a consistent position size on all my trades, or, being able to identify this is a higher probability setup, I'm going to go a little heavier. Things like waking up at the same time every day, giving myself 30 minutes extra before the market opens, not just sitting and not knowing where we are in a macro picture. Back when I wasn't, I guess in this phase I'm in now, I didn't always know where we were on the SPY weekly chart or the SPY daily chart. I make sure I'm never going into a trading day not knowing those things now. I know where we are on the VIX. I know where we are looking at SPY and QQQ. So I've taken a lot of these little steps. I'm journaling every day. A lot of little steps that have slowly progressed me into this. And then now that I'm, I guess, like here, I've been pretty consistent, hitting on average 5K a day, give or take, some days are more, some days are less. Using something like, we're going to reference TradeZella again, I can look even these last few months that I've been on Zella, and I can see, okay, I'm keeping my losers small. That's not a problem. That's something that I've gotten a lot better at the last few years. I've respected risk a lot. I've seen setups, play out over and over and over. I kind of have a better idea of what to expect. My wins are still bigger. I'm having a lot more wins than losers. I'm sure we'll go over those stats in just a bit, but I still have a lot of room to improve too. So I think that's a big part of my journey too. And that a lot of people, once they find some success, they get, comfortable, they get, maybe their discipline lacks a little. And I'm here to tell you that if you get to that point and your discipline starts lacking and you start not respecting your risk, it can all go away just as fast. So I think that's been a big part of this next level up too, is every day I come in, I know I have to be disciplined. I know that I have to respect my risk. I know that I have to go into the day prepared. I know that I have to go in with a fresh mindset, and doing all those little things adds up to a really big result. I think that's, if I had to put it into words, that's the best, route I've taken to get to this point so far.
Makes sense. No, like I said before, very interesting to see people's stages going from stage 1, 2 to 3. And the biggest thing that I've noticed from traders on a psychological level, it's always about them learning more about themselves, learning more about things to do right, things to do wrong, and then going deeper into the technical things that are working, setups that are going well, setups that aren't working. And that's what I wanted to dive into now. Now I wanted to go into like the actual meat of your trading, right? How do you build your watch list? What setups you focus on? Explanation of some of your trades, things like that. So I'm going to give you access to your screen, and we're going to go through, you currently, a day in the life of you, from a trading perspective. So the first thing we'll go into is, you identifying the day. What do you look for from a technical point? How do you prepare mentally when you go into a trading day?
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right. So here, I gave you access.
Okay, sweet. Do this. Awesome. We all good in your end? Can we see this?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
So every day I have a very simple routine, right? I go into the day and I think to myself, KISS, K-I-S-S, which to me means keep it simple, stupid. Now I see a lot of traders that come in and they want to find 800 indicators. They want to, watch the MACD and the RSI and the stochastic full and the CCI, all that. And like what I found from that and from my own experience and others is that you're going to end up having more false signals and you're going to end up stressing yourself out and losing more money than you're actually making. So for me, come in every morning, usually like an hour and a half before market open, give or take. And I have my daily chart up, and typically I have two charts up. So I go over here, I link typically like this. We'll go here, type in, for example, SPY. Now I'll have my hourly chart here, and I'll have my daily and weekly over here. So we link these together. And the reason I do this is because I like to go through a quick scan of everything that I'm watching for the day. Now, I almost always start in the weekly. I want to know where we are. So, for example, I'm starting out the day. It's the morning time. I want to know, okay, is SPY approaching any trend lines? Are we approaching any major areas of resistance? Any big whole psych numbers that I might need to know about in case I'm trading intraday and we approach one of those? So, I'll go here. For example, we have SPY coming up on a big weekly trend line. We've been in an uptrend, but we could be coming into an area of resistance up here. That's something that I want to know and something that I want to make sure I'm aware of if we get a big push up or if we see some type of, interesting price action intraday. So then I look, I'm like, okay, any trend lines I need to be aware of? Is there any areas of resistance I want to be aware of? Well, for me as a price action trader, I guess that's how I put myself. I trade supply and demand, I trade support and resistance, and I primarily trade price action. So I'm finding my levels on the bigger time frames, the weekly, the daily, the hourly, the 4-hour, and then intraday, which we'll get to in a second. I'm looking, okay, do we have any trend up or down? Do we have any of the few setups that I use that are confirming? And okay, does this fit our overall macro trend? Because in my eyes, I want to trade like smart money. Smart money isn't, institutions, big money like that isn't going in and looking for bull flags every day.
Yeah.
They're not going in with no clue what's going on here and going to the 5-minute chart and saying, okay, let's wait for a bull flag and let's take that. So I think that that's what a lot of trading courses and a lot of people get wrong in learning is they just you can't just look for basic chart patterns and basic indicators with no actual knowledge on what do these bars actually mean? What does this trend actually mean?
Yeah.
So for me, continuing on that every day, I'm looking at, for example, SPY. Or on the weekly, I say, okay, we have a big trend line here, some resistance potentially coming up into the supply zone. We had a wick up here with some previous supply. I'm going to draw that over. I know if we look at this, we have some supply coming up here. So let me go to the daily chart. Nothing really on the weekly from those lows of 350. We go here. Do we have anything going on here? Well, if you've been watching SPY this week, it's the 22nd of November. We've been in a very choppy range. We've been between 400 and 390. Now, this is something that I want to know. I have to know what range we're in and let me go back and say this. I primarily trade SPY, ES, QQQ, and Tesla. Now, I'll trade other names if they have relative strength, AMD, NVIDIA, Netflix, Roku, all those names. I'll trade those, Amazon, if they have A+ setups and if they have relative strength. But honestly, I've found my most confidence and my best trades all come from SPY, ES, QQQ, and Tesla. Now, that's for me. I found that for my risk tolerance and for my conviction, that's what I feel most confident trading. I think for a lot of you guys listening to this, you're better off finding a few stocks that you learn their personality. You learn what they do, you learn how they move, and you really master those, instead of switching from penny stocks to Forex to options to, Amazon to, Wish to all these different random, stocks that move differently. They don't have any, routine to them.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what a lot of traders get wrong too, is they try to trade 800 different things, options, equity, futures, Forex, all these different things, penny stocks, large caps, and they don't find any consistency with any of them. And it's like this carousel.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. But so now when you found your middle point on finding, hey, I'm great at trading SPY, ES, how'd you kind of learn that about yourself? Were you actively looking to know what you trade well, or did you just after a while be like, wait, actually I trade these names the best?
So honestly, what it was I just started realizing like, hey, whenever I trade SPY, I'm making money. Whenever I trade SPY, I'm finding these nice levels of supply and demand, support and resistance. I'm watching it really well on an intraday time frame. As far as Tesla went, I've always liked trading Tesla, from years back when it was in the 2,000-3,000s to now. I've just found that, like, even as basic as it sounds, watching P&L, like, I'm really good at trading these names. I feel very confident trading these names. Now, I wasn't like I went in and I'm like, I'm only going to trade SPY because that's what I want to do, and I don't care if I'm good at anything else. I've tried everything else, and I'll still dabble in other names, like I said before. But for me, it was, a feeling of execution, of peace, and of just genuine passion. Like, I like trading SPY. I like seeing how it moves. I like trading Tesla, and I have a passion to learn more about it and watch it, which I think is very important for traders too. And that you have to, I think if you want to make it trading, you have to have some sort of passion for the learning process and actually liking, watching what you're doing. If you sit there and you hate it and you're getting impulsive and impatient and angry and all these things, and you hate learning and you just want to take signals, for one, your trading career probably won't be super long lived. But for two, you're not going to get that full benefit and that full, skill set of learning if you don't find, not that you have to have it naturally, but if you don't find that passion and that want to learn. And for me, SPY had it. ES had it. I like trading those names. I heard a lot of good things about futures, which, if there's any very beginner traders here, ES is the S&P 500 futures, much more expensive to trade than SPY, but there's a lot of different benefits to it. No Greeks, some tax benefits, another time for all that talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what that is. So ES and SPY move the exact same, basically. So I found a passion for doing those. And therefore I've kind of stuck to what works for me for now. Why, if I don't want to reinvent the wheel, if it works now, and if I'm making making the money I need to, if I'm trading to the execution I need to, I've just found that it works for me. So
got it.
Something else I like about SPY too is it moves very fluid with how I like to trade. Now, for me, we look at these levels right here. I've taken, even though it's choppy, I've taken a lot of decent trades within these last 2 weeks. Watching things like this, for example, we look at 395. Okay. What does this represent? It's been our support the last few days. So this is an area I'm going to watch intraday. And if we see some sign of reversal these last few days, I was more than likely going to take, a bounce around there or find something if we could find any trend intraday. Vice versa. We got below 395. That support now becomes resistance. I took a really nice trade the other day on this, it was like a 395 reject right around here, or right around here this day. 395 reject, got into some puts here, had a really nice move down. Now, I found that based on the daily chart, support turn resistance. We go look at this, and we saw that volume weakening. We saw some reversal signs, had a nice move down. Very simple. Now, I don't sit there. I don't use, I use VWAP. I use the 8-day EMA. I use the 21-day EMA sometimes, and I watch volume. I don't use stochastic full. I don't use MACD. I don't use all these different indicators that some people use, because I've found that they cloud what I'm trying to do. I get almost all of my trades from learning how to read price action, looking at the 5-minute chart, looking at the 15-minute chart, the hourly for levels, and then the 4-hour, daily, and weekly for trend. Now, I didn't just, I'm sorry, what?
No, go ahead. That's what I was actually going to ask. What indicators do you use? Because I see your charts are pretty naked.
Yes.
Which is a good thing, because I'm on the same boat. I don't really use much indicators at all. I just focus heavily on price action. So for you, it's the same exact thing: price action, looking at supply and demand, understanding what buyers are, what sellers are, and probability aspect, right?
Yeah. And for me, like, I didn't just start trading and use the 5-minute and the 15-minute. It's been a long process of trying different time frames, watching the 1 minute, the first 15 minutes. That's the only time I use the 1 minute personally. I switch over to the 5 minute and then the 15 minute, but I've tried the 30 minute. I've tried watching the hourly intraday. I've tried the 2 minute, I've tried all these things. And what I found was that my edge best works when I'm using the 5 minute and the 15 minute. Now, again, I find my levels from intraday stuff. So I'm not sure if we want to go over this now or later, but I wanted to go over like a few trades I took today.
Yeah, we can go over that. We'll go over that in a bit. I just want to cover up some things on this right now. So,
okay,
just recapping from the beginning, your morning routine, looking at things from a higher level, cutting down into a smaller time frame, building a watch list from there. Main things you focus on: ES, SPY, Tesla, QQQ. You narrow into those, and main thing you kind of focus on alongside with those is price action. You use the VWAP and 2 EMAs. That's and volume, right?
That's basically it, man. And like, every morning, if I find, let's say Nvidia had earnings, if they're really strong, then I'll watch for that relative strength in that name and maybe trade it then. But every day I go in at the mindset, I'm going to find my levels in SPY. I'm going to probably watch Tesla. I'm going to be watching ES, then anything else that has relative strength or is a SIP, a stock and play, I call it. I'll watch that too. But primarily, yes, higher time frame, down to the 5 minute and 15 minute intraday to confirm entries. Sometimes I'll check on the hourly just to see. But that's basically, obviously there's more with price action, watching candles form intraday and such, watching these tell a big story here. But as far as how I find my levels, it's a lot of supply and demand. It's also watching for things like this, watching for lower highs. I want to see us consistently closing higher, making lower highs, or vice versa in a downtrend, making lower lows on a macro time frame. That'll give me more not bias, but more confluence intraday of whether I'm looking for calls or puts and areas to add either of those two. So I watch for a lot of trend. I watch for, again, those bigger time frames. And then intraday, I've became very proficient at watching price action and being able to execute based on, what the charts are telling me, not having to rely on any indicators, not having to rely on any external factors because, everything I'm seeing is right here.
Now, did you ever use indicators and remove them, or you never use indicators?
So I have. I've tried about every EMA in the book. I've tried MACD. I've tried RSI. I've tried CCI. And it's not that I think they're bad. I just don't want to rely on indicators. And, I found that a lot of people that only use them get a lot of false signals. So, I've tried EMA crossovers. I've tried, watching for price action confirmation with, but MACD has to be crossing up. I've tried watching stochastic full in the 5 minute and the 15 minute. Like I've tried all this stuff, but for me, I don't like thinking that some indicator that, as far as I know, could malfunction. I don't know how that was, algorithmically designed. Like I don't know how, if the software with it's working, but I do know that if I can watch price action, if I can see how volume is correlating with, the wicks on these candlesticks, the bodies of these candlesticks, if I can watch the trend, women lie, men lie, indicators lie, but price action more often than not does not lie once you learn how to read it. So that's been my edge and something that I've really spent, at this point, years learning and focusing on. And I found that I have a lot less anxiety trading. I have a lot more conviction because I've seen these setups happen over and over. I've seen, these candlesticks play out over and over. And that's what I always kind of wanted in trading, was that conviction, was that confidence, and that, that feeling that I can, have a blank chart and I've gotten very good at having high probability setups and at predicting where the stock's going to go. Obviously I don't like to say predicting because nothing's 100%, but I've gotten good at giving myself high probability setups to let myself execute on with that.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, like you said in the beginning, keep it simple, stupid, right? Very simple, very straightforward, with obviously a lot of value packed inside of understanding price action. So I do want to emphasize on that. Trading is very simple, yet very deep, right? There's a lot of things you need to learn about yourself, learn about price action, learn about the strategies you're trading, learn about the way you're trading, and then also learn about how you will kind of execute that. Right. And it seems like you have a very, very good understanding about yourself and understanding of what you're going to trade, how you're going to trade, and just a good focus point, which allows, this process to be a lot easier for yourself. Now, what are, your two, and this is where I want to dive into some of the trades. What are your two top setups or bread and butter setups? Like, hey, if I see this setup, and like, can we walk through that setup? How do you identify that setup? What gives you the confidence, and what does that setup look like? If you can walk us through three trades.
Yeah. So as far as like, I guess, as far as my favorite setups to trade, we'll start with that. And then we can also go over like two trades that I took today, one winner, one loser, and how I mismanaged one of them to the max, still in a green, but mismanaged it. Is my favorite setup is when, for example, we look at something. I'm going to remove these drawings from this real quick. I like seeing on the daily chart, for example, I like seeing areas of demand or supply. So just for our sake, we look at like this 390 area right here. Okay. I like when we're moving up, specifically we're having lower volume come in, and intraday, I can look at this just for this reference here, trade I took, reject on 390 here. I like coming up into macro levels and then seeing on, let's say, a 5-minute chart or a 15-minute chart, signs of reversal. So if, we're coming up, let's just say into, 390, let me put on my, my drawing tool real quick. So if we're coming up into 390 and, we're coming, we're slowly moving up, volume's dying. I like watching that. And we see something like a reversal pin bar around that, or we see, us start to make, we come across it, we fail to close above it, we come lower, we're making those lower highs and lower lows. I like seeing signs of reversal intraday, for example, a put entry up at a macro level, or vice versa. We're coming down to a demand area. We're showing signs of reversal on the 5-minute and the 15-minute. That I think is that's my bread and butter setup. Now, back in the day, it used to be like breakouts. So, for example, maybe something like this, an opening range breakout is something that I traded a lot in 2021. Now, I found that this year, especially in a choppier market, like in 2021, you could see this, this first wick up, we come around, have a nice reversal. Then a lot of the times you saw us come opening range breakout over this, and then just see a massive move up because everything was, just going straight up in 2021 or vice versa. There was a lot more clear trending days per se. Now, what I've found is that, this particular setup that I loved, especially on the 5-minute, hasn't worked so well in 2022. It's worked sometimes, but as you can see, we kind of go up here, have a little move up, then come down, flop around. You might get stopped out if we close below this. Then we slowly move up. This is, from today. Obviously, we end up making a bigger move later, but that was one of my biggest setups back then. And now I'm not like, I really don't take setups intraday, without a macro level. Now I do use like the VWAP. So when I'm trading intraday, I usually set up like the 8-day EMA, the 21 and the VWAP. It's kind of messy right here, but if we're in an uptrend, just hypothetically, and if we see, we're moving up, higher lows, we're making a trend up. And if we have something like, just for example here, if we have like a pin bar up and we also touch the VWAP on a move up, that might be something that I try. Now, am I going to try it lighter than if I have, multiple confirmations on a macro level? Absolutely. But, small things like that, reading price action intraday, saying, okay, this might be a good pullback. Buyers are stepping back in. We also have, VWAP as support or the 8-day EMA as support. This has multiple confirmations. I can try it. Versus I'm not just going to go and say, this looks like a higher low. Maybe I don't really know what these candlesticks are saying. I'm just going to take it just cause like, I don't do that anymore. There was a point when I did. There was a point when I didn't know a lot about price action. I didn't really respect my rule of multiple confirmations. And I paid the price for it a lot of times. It would work sometimes, sure. But the times it didn't work would eat up a lot of those profits and more from when it did. So as far as the intraday basis goes, I try not to take a lot of trades based on just the small time frames. If I see something that has a lot of momentum, or if I see something that looks really good intraday or has a, builds a really nice base and has multiple, wicks up, pin bars up or down, sure, then I'll take the trade. But I've been less of a breakout trader and more of a zone trader in the last, I guess you could say even year. And it's honestly helped my P&L a lot. And it's helped me remain calmer in my trades and help me find, these few A+ setups that I like into trade. And I guess, the P&L's reflected it.
No, interesting. So you said you made the adjustment from trading in 2021 to 2022, which I agree. I think the market has adjusted a lot. How soon did you recognize that adjustment? Like, how soon did you make that adjustment and recognize the change? And how did you kind of observe it and react to it?
Yeah. So, I don't think there was just a single point where I, all of a sudden was like, okay, you know what, I have to change right now. But, time after time, seeing stuff like this, seeing, obviously the headlines of, the market isn't the same as it was in 2020. We shifted from a bull market to a bear market, seeing stuff like that in a macro picture, watching, when you watch something every single day, if you're committed to the stock market and learning how to trade every single day, and you're watching the open every single day and hours in every single day, like, you're going to get the hint of things. You're going to learn if you're actually sitting there focused, and if you're actually sitting there with the intent of learning and getting better, you're going to notice patterns. You're going to notice, similar things that happen every day. Because one thing that people don't really think about in trading is every single one of these candlesticks is all human psychology. So when people are seeing the same thing every single day, people tend to like to repeat themselves. That's why chart patterns work. That's why these candlestick patterns work. And that's why the trading psychology that we talk about and build, and these setups we build and look at, work repetitively. And I think that's a mindset thing a lot of people don't look at. So for me, it was kind of a slow switch. It wasn't one day I was like, oh my gosh, the orb doesn't work anymore. It was seeing over and over it happen. And I'm like, this isn't really working how it used to. And I think there's a lot of things like that from 2020 and 2021 that changed.
Yeah.
And I also think on that topic that, a lot of traders started in 2020, COVID hit, people were stuck at home. They didn't have anything to do. And if that's you or anyone listening to this, I think that this year has been very eye-opening, but I don't say that in a bad way. I think a lot of traders built really bad trading habits. They thought that they could just buy calls and everything would go up and trading was easy. And now this has kind of been an eye-opening year of, okay,
Yeah.
I need to get serious about my learning. I need to get serious about journaling my trades. I need to get serious about watching for switches and becoming adaptable to this market. And so it was kind of a slow adaptation, I guess you could say, in short. And yeah.
Yeah, no, the markets have changed a lot in the past 2 years. I've been trading for 9+ years, and we did have times where the markets did shift, but it didn't happen year after year after year, right? So, like you just said, 2020, the markets were a lot different than 2021. And then 2021, the markets were a lot different than 2022, and so on. So now it's like we have to adapt a lot quicker and faster and be more efficient. If not, and I've seen people that killed it in 2021 or 2020, and the next year they were nowhere to be found. I know people that had 6-figure years, and then next year they're negative. And the biggest thing was they didn't adapt, they didn't pick up on the changes, and they just weren't paying attention to what's happening on a macro level. So adaptability in this game is super important. The fact that you've adapted from 2020 to 2021 and 2022 and going into 2023 now, just those 2-3 years, I think, are more impressive than people's 9 years, because there were so many changes happening. So hats off to you from just those 3 years itself, just, kind of making it through and doing it in a great way.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's go through some trades now. Let's walk through some trades. Let's go into entries, exits, the thought process. I want to see some mistakes you made, because you were saying you had a winner and a loser today. So I love to show people the mistakes too, because I'm pretty sure people see you and, oh my God, this guy's perfect. He makes X amount of money. And I'm like, listen, every trader that you see, when you go into the mistakes, you'll see they make mistakes just like you and I do, but they just manage their mistakes a lot better and manage risk way better than the average person. And that's what allows them to kind of stay in this game longer. So I'd love to kind of break that down.
Of course. So today, I think I ended up making, let's see here. It was like 38.67. Okay. So a little under $4,000, had a 4,037 winner, and then a 170 loser. Now, I want to go over the loss first. I just like to start with those, as I think it's more beneficial than seeing how much someone made.
Did you upload, by the way, did you upload this in Zella yet or not yet?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So everything's uploaded every day. That's a must.
Perfect.
That is a must for the day, upload to Zella. So
perfect.
Basically on SPY. All right. And I want to start by foreshadowing with this. Is I was up. The first trade of the day was on Tesla. It was like a 3-minute trade. We'll go over that in a second. Wanted more out of it, but still, with my position sizing and how fast the contracts moved, it worked out really nicely. Made $4,000 off the open. We'll go over that in a second. So the reason I wanted to say that is that I went into this trade with a mindset that I really try to avoid. During this trade, I started P&L watching a little bit. I didn't want to lose my $4,000. I had the right idea. I wanted to watch as we open up today, we had a gap up. So we already had a higher high on this open. So I wanted to see us come down, hold 395, preferably, have a wick to above it, and then see a gap up, as I think I've been thinking still that we're going to see a higher high, at least like 405, 410. And then we see where the market wants to go with that trend line. So I had the right idea. I in my head, I was like, I had it written down to the group. I had it in my head, like, okay, I'm going to take some calls down here and I'm going to wait for it to rip up. Well, we go and it opens up. I add my calls at 395.5 right around here. So get a nice entry. We go up a little bit. We have like a 40-cent move, obviously not what I'm looking for in the trade. And we come back down. I don't like this candle here. I don't like how we closed lower. We had a wick here, looked decent, but I didn't like how we weren't reversing to bounce as fast as I would have liked. So even though I'm in much lighter than the Tesla trade, even though, nothing's really been broken. We have a max of I think like a 33-cent drawdown. I get impatient and I end up cutting it for a small loss, 170, because I'm already up $4,000 in the morning. Now, what happens the rest of the day? It ripped up. So I'm looking at this after and I'm analyzing and I'm like, dang, where'd I go wrong? Well, a few places I went wrong is, for one, I broke one of my rules. I was P&L watching. I was sitting there, oh no, I'm going to lose my 4K day. I'm going to give back my morning gains. I don't want to do that. And so, I wait and I'm watching. I'm like, you know what? If we don't go up on this next candle, I'm going to cut it at basically break even. We didn't do it and I cut it. So in that sense, I followed my rule. But in a lot of senses, I broke my trading plan, because in reality, this gave me no reason to stop out. Our key level to watch is 395. That was my initial plan, was to stop below 395. So ideally, with like a 50-cent risk, we get at least like $1, $2 move. And I broke that out of impatience, out of already being up for the day, and out of trading with P&L in mind instead of actual execution. And so, even 6+ years in, the reason I like talking about this stuff, even though it was a loss, was that I still make, little dumb mistakes like this too. I think every trader does. Yeah. And it never really just goes away.
Never, yeah.
I caught myself P&L watching. I caught myself not wanting to lose my morning gains, when in reality, the setup looked really great. I followed my plan almost. I had the right idea. Obviously, we went and ended up ripping to 400 today, but my execution, I got caught in the moment. I got impatient and, it costed me probably an extra few $1,000s. So that was, as far as like a trading setup, that's the stuff I look for. I want to see us come down to a macro level. Ideally, I like to see that those wicks up and then a follow through there. My overall macro plan was right from the bigger time frame. But where I went wrong was my intraday execution and letting my previous trade, taking what happened there, bleed into my current trade. And that's something that I try to do, or try not to do, every day. I try to keep whatever happened last trade doesn't come with me to this next trade. Whatever happened yesterday doesn't come with me to this trading day. And that was a rule that I broke today, and it costed me some money. Now I cut the loss really quick, which I was happy with. That's one of my biggest strengths as of this last probably 2 years, is cutting my losses really quick. I had losers. You'll see that in the Zella, but I've gotten very good at cutting them small and having more winners and bigger winners, which is, what you want to do in trading, because you're going to have losses. You're going to have plays that you fumble that might stop you out, 1 second before, and then rip up. It's part of the game. But what we have to do is learn from them. Every time we get that experience, we learn from it, we soak it in, we accept it, and then we move forward. So that was. Do you have anything to add to that? Sorry.
I'm processing. Yeah.
So that was my loss for the morning. Now my win was very quick. I found this level. It was a 168 to 167 area bounce on Tesla. Now, if you go to the 1 minute chart, this is a really, really quick trade. Really, really quick trade. I'll show you how I found the level in a second. And this is what I do. Whenever I'm trading on the 1 minute chart for the first 15 minutes, first of all, you have to be quick. If you're trading these first, especially 5 minutes, you are, in my opinion, how I've done it in scalp mode. You're not, these candles move quick, and you can either have a lot of gain or a lot of pain if you don't manage your risk right. So, hopped in calls down here. At 168, my ideal area, I would have added more if we get down to 167, and a break and close below that would have been out. But added calls right here at 168, had a nice move up to 171. I think these contracts went nearly like a little under 40%, like 35 or 40%. So
you're trading right on the open.
Yeah, this was right off the open.
So wait, now let me ask you this: what confidence are you getting on the open? Like, how are you able to read the open? And I'm interested because typically I do have days I don't trade the first minute. It's like a rule of mine. I let the first minute formulate. So in the first minute, when you trade right on the open, what do you look for? What do you identify for?
Yeah. So just for anyone watching this too, trading the open, like he said, is very risky, especially if you're not experienced. So it's probably a good rule of thumb. But for me, I've been looking at this weekly chart, right? And we have, if you look back, we had this big area of confluence. We kind of had no man's land, but we had this wick up. And in that same area, we have a wick up. We had this wick up and down. And that's what I like to call confluence. So this is a big macro resistance or support level I've been watching on Tesla. We've been beaten down, but I figured if we come down and next we have that weekly level, go to the hourly now. Okay. What was our kind of support from before? We had this big wick down, but besides that, we had failed to go lower than this 167 area. It was clear we had a lot of support there, almost touched here like 168, bounced pre-market again. So a lot of times with Tesla, I watch this every day, and I know its personality pretty well. When we come to these big levels of, weekly, of daily support, and especially when we hold that on the hourly or in the days before, there's a good chance we're going to see at least some sort of relief when we come down there and buyers step in. So I had that plan off the open. I was watching it like a hawk. I had my active trader ready. I was pulled up. Like, it wasn't like I was, like, okay, well, oh crap, I see it dipping, I'm going to go pull up contracts. Like, I had these 170s locked and loaded. I was ready. I was watching it. So I knew if we came down off the open, or not new, I don't like that word. I had a good idea if we came down off the open to this 168 or 167 area, that big weekly support, we would see some sort of rip up as we've been so beaten down. It's a big weekly level, and we've been holding it pretty dang well pre-market in the day before. So seeing that, got in here, less than my normal position size. And that's the thing too, is if you're trading off the open, usually when I trade, I'm trading like, it depends, usually like anywhere from 10 to 50 to 100 plus contracts. It just depends on the trade, on SPY, Tesla, whatever it is. So on this in particular, I think my position size was ended up being like 15 or 16 grand or something like that. So typically speaking, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand is all I really need. I'll go higher if I need to, or if I need margin for futures or whatnot. But on this trade, went lighter than usual. And these contracts just immediately from here all the way up to here ripped. So I sold most right around here, cut the last few on this wick down, and then was basically done for the morning. So I was, I had that. I was like, dang, nice. So you hit a 4K day in 5 minutes, usually be like done for the day, I guess you could say. But again, I took what happened here into that SPY trade, and I let that basically stop me out early, which is one of my key rules, is I don't take what happened here into there. And I think that's a big, even if I would have lost this trade, let's say this goes against me. Let's say it goes down to here, which is a very real possibility, and stops me out below 167. So even if that's the case, and I lose $1,000 on this trade, $1,200, whatever, I still, as a trader, need to be able to go into that next SPY trade and not go on tilt, and not raise my position size because I lost this trade, and not go into that mad or frustrated that I lost and do something dumb on the next trade or mismanage it. So I think was a big part of my trading too, is back in the day, if I would have lost this trade, goes against me, I would go into the next trade, and I might tell myself that, oh, I'm completely fine. I'm not going to go on tilt. I'm not going to trade more size just because I lost. But I would do that, sometimes more often than not. And from being able to go from that to really most of the time not taking what happened here into there and using the same position size and having the same principle, that's helped me keep my losses small too, and not do dumb stuff that's detrimental to my account.
Yeah, no, interesting. I'm seeing this action is super quick, and it's always interesting to me to see traders trade, because like I said, I have rules that may not align with your rules, and you may have rules that may not align with the next person's rules, or the way you trade or the way I trade. And it doesn't make the way you trade right or wrong, doesn't make the way I trade right or wrong. It just goes off preference. It goes off what you're good at. So for example, you made 4 grand on this trade. This trade, based off my setup, based off the way I trade, would not be a trade I would take. And the reason I emphasize on that is because traders, everyone watching this needs to understand that there's different ways to trade, and different ways of trading doesn't mean that one way is right. You need to find what way works for you, what trading style works for you, and what setups work for you. Some people are great at scalping. Like, see, for you to be able to scalp this and make 4 grand on it on the open, showcases you're good on your feet. You're able to move quick. You're able to execute at a high level. Now, if you're not able to execute on a high level, I would not recommend to go and take these type of trades, because now you're kind of fighting a double-edged sword, and it becomes very hard because now you can't execute, you can't identify the setups. It doesn't go with the way you trade, the way your trading style is. So I think understanding that, having a cool idea and a key understanding of the way you trade, the way you don't trade, and executing on that is very, very important. So when you do see different traders, like myself, like Jdun, trading different ways or having different approaches, just take pieces from both of them and build your own trading style. Build your own trading style that works for you and that fits kind of your agenda.
I wish I could sit here and put that on repeat. Like, I think that's the biggest thing that traders don't do, is they think that there's just one golden strategy to make millions of dollars. When in reality, that I think that a lot of people would benefit from treating their trading like a military. Each military has different branches that get things done. Well, you want to have different things that you piece into your trading that fit your style, that fit your edge, that fit your personality, that you can trade and, again, put your emotions in the passenger seat and to really execute at the highest level. And like you said, like for a beginner trader, someone that isn't quick, there's no way you're trading Tesla off the open. You're just not. And that's okay. You don't have to. A lot of the times I don't do that either, but I know that I have that ability. I saw the setup today. I had conviction in it and I took it, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be, your A+ setup. Maybe your A+ is waiting 5 to 10 minutes off the open. Maybe your A+ is waiting for 20 minutes, whatever that may be. And whatever you find your confidence in and, what you recognize your strengths in is what you have to focus on and build on, kind of like you said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. So now let's go over another day. Like if you want to go through a past day, I want to kind of see another day if you want, if you can break that down.
Yeah. So like another
just,
trader, it's like another like day of like thought process.
yeah, or if you want to open up, I guess TradeZella and go on a different day there, up to you.
Here, let's see. I'm trying to think. So like yesterday, for example, as I think that knowing when to trade and when not to trade is really important too, at least like for my edge and like what I do. So just real quick, before we go to TradeZella, like yesterday, very choppy day, right in the middle of a range. We look at this, and for me and how I trade and what fits my edge, we're in between macro levels. So I automatically am thinking to myself, okay, this is going to be a tough trading day. We're in between this 395 area, 390 and 400. So I'm going to be risk off unless I see something A+. Now, even though we have some setups that come up, we see this reversal candle here, I move down, we come down to like this 393, which was, close to that other day's previous high, or let's see, higher low, 393 was previous to this other day's wick. Could have looked at that for a bounce. It still wasn't high probability enough for me. And I'm sitting here watching. Sure, if I see this happen and have a nice few dollar rip up, and am I like, oh, I could have taken that, I could have executed on that, sure. But for me, that's not enough. That's not enough conviction to take the trade. So I think that knowing when to take trades and when not to take trades is just as important, or close to as important, as like finding good trades. Because if you're sitting there if you're sitting there saying, I need to take a trade, I need to find something in this, you're going to end up more often than not getting hit.
Yeah.
And, it's not going to be a good situation. So there was that. And the previous day before that, let's see what it was on here. This was on the 18th. So on the 18th, I only made 1.7K after everything. I had 2 winners, which were both, we'll go over to TradeZella in just a second. Let's go here. Both on ES. So it was bounces, I believe, 39.62. And that, so we go over here and looking at that, let's go over here. Sorry, I'm a little mixed up, but let's go to our hourly chart here, 39 or 18th. So, okay, we'll just go look at SPY. Sorry, little congested here.
Good.
Sorry.
You're good. You're good.
I go over here, and on the 18th, we had some decent price action here. And I believe actually the trades that I took were shorts on ES, and we're coming down. We broke down this 395 area. And I believe it was like right here on this. We had this move up to like 395.5. We failed to go higher. So on this breakdown, after failing that level that it kind of been back and forth, I took some shorts here in ES, cut a nice scalp down. Wasn't the biggest, but on something like that too, I'm seeing this kind of flag form. I don't trade just flags, just put that out there. But I saw us in that like 395.5, 395 area, failing to go higher. Saw this bear flag formation forming and took the shorts down on ES, not SPY, to make almost $2,000 that day. So again, nothing crazy. It's been overall lighter last like 7 days in this chop zone.
Been tougher. Yeah, market's been tougher.
Yeah. So
how do you go about that? How do you before you go into the day? How do you know to be risk on, risk off, to keep it moderate and things?
Yeah, for sure. So I think for me, the biggest thing is knowing where we are on a macro chart again. And if we're ranging, in a range of chop back and forth pre-market, that's a good sign. If we're opening up at 395, like we did around here these few days in this big overall macro range, that's a good sign we're probably going to be choppy. And right after that, like if we don't have a clear trend, I'm immediately saying, okay, I'm going to take some risk back. So that's, I guess, for me, my biggest thing is knowing when to put on size and knowing when to scale back. And diving even further into that is knowing how to look at trades and saying, okay, this might be a trade where I put in 5K, or that maybe this is a trade where I risk 25K, whatever it may be, and being able to gauge how much size to put on based on my system versus the probability that the trade's going to work out.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So I can go ahead here too. And let's go, Rick. I'm sure you want to go over TradeZella, some stuff there. Can you see my screen, my TradeZella screen here?
Yeah, see the screen. Yep.
Awesome. So I guess starting out, I'm not sure where you want to go with, there's a lot to talk about this platform, but one thing I wanted to shout out to real quick is I've been using TradeZella for a few months now. So I think I started in September on this account. And if we go here, this was my first month on TradeZella on this account, 85,622. My profit factor was 3.2. Average winning trade was 2350. Average losing trade was 1949. Obviously, we want this to be a little bigger, but I had a 73% win rate. So I was winning twice, almost 3 times as many trades as losing. Now, what that showed me right off the rip, and I've always known I've had this problem, right, is that I need to have bigger winners. Now, I have bigger winners than losers. That's not the problem. I keep my losses relatively small for how many winners I have. That's not the problem. My problem is I don't hold my winners as long as I should. And if I did that, this number would be much higher, this number would be much higher, and this number would be much higher. So my first month on TradeZella, just looking at that, I see all that stuff. The very next month, between me making adjustments and me just trading better in October.
Can I see the calendar? If you go down, I just want to see the calendar. Go to October calendar. I'm just curious to see your progress.
Yeah. So, whoops. Tripping.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is October.
Oh, you're trading your futures too on Sundays, huh?
Yeah. There was some futures.
Wow, man, you got to take a break.
You caught me.
Yeah, I'm like.
Yeah, no, there was a few futures trades in there. But yeah, so this was October, and we'll go down. Actually, we can go to November here too, or not September. Excuse me.
So you had September. You had some red days.
Yeah.
Pretty solid. Strong overall month. And then you go to October.
Or whoops, excuse me. Go here.
Yeah, you're in October.
Yep.
Wow, October, you had a phenomenal every day.
It was awesome. So all green there. And then so far in November now, all green as well. And up, this isn't November. We go here. And what I was getting at too, before we go to November, was that just from September to October, I think this is October, my average winning trade was 1206, average losing was 677. So that improved.
Wow. Your profit factor jumped up massively.
Yeah, profit factor jumped up massively. And then my P&L was basically the same, still that 80 grand for the month. So I think that just being able to see that and to recognize and to recognize, okay, this is something I really need to work on. If nothing else, that helped me so much. And even though my P&L was 5K less than the month before, my risk reward was much better. My profit factor is much better. And overall, it was just more consistent.
Yeah,
So
I'm seeing. I saw if you go to October again, October month down below. Yeah, one thing I am seeing about this month compared to the month prior is you're having a lot of consistent days: 2K, 6K, 4K, 800, 7K. Like your consistency in days are right there, and then you'll have those big days like the 20K day, another 8K day, another 7K day. They'll pop up, showcasing you're showing up every day, taking what the market gives you, and having those strong overall days.
and you know what's kind of interesting too? Something I like about TradeZella, and I wanted to point this out too, is that I notice, for example, like a lot of the days where I take more trades, I make less money. And so just be like, for example, 20K, 3 trades, 7K, 4 trades, but a lot of the days where I'm taking 8 trades, et cetera, I'm making, obviously it's some days it's more, but a lot of those days I'm making less money. So like being able to see and visualize just things like that has helped me tremendously. And I no bullshit. I can't say thank you enough. Like it's really nice. It's nice to be able to visualize this, to have something that's pretty to the eye, and to be able to really like look at progress from a different perspective, which I think helps a lot in trading too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm seeing this. This is phenomenal. I mean, it's insane. You're trading the right way, proper win percentages, proper average winning trade, losing trade. How's November going so far?
It's been good, man. So we go to November 1st to the 22nd, and 65,000 so far. Profit factor still again doubled up basically from that first month on here, September. 5.02. Average winning trade is 1945. Average losing trade of 1163. And I've been still pretty steady around that 75% win rate. Now I'm pretty happy with that. I'd obviously rather get it up, but more so, I want to get this average winning trade up. And I know that like with all this tracking software, with a lot of mental work and with a lot of this consistent grind on it, a lot of consistent focus, a lot of consistent journaling, this is only going to go up over time if I keep doing what I'm doing. And obviously, again, having something like this to help me look and analyze and see what I'm doing right and wrong, really helps. So November's been good so far. Been on track to have that same, granted, I keep my trading up, fingers crossed, have that same 80K plus month. And
you're having back-to-back 70, 80K months since you've been uploading.
Yeah,
That's insane. Yeah. Let's see your daily stats. I want to see how your days are going. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So let's go over here. So it depends. It's been pretty good. I think 100% win rates. Obviously I'd like to get I'd like to have bigger winners, I guess, but I've been really good about having smaller losers and having more consistent winners. That's my strength. My weakness is having, I'm really good at getting like 20, 30, 40% winners, but I want to get more into, if I held a lot of these trades, they would go to 50, 60, 70, 80, 100%. And therefore I could use less size. I could have less trades. And that's my big 2023 goal. I've wrote this down multiple times to myself, is I want to have bigger winners. And that's my big goal for 2023.
And in bigger winners, like, are you going on bigger winners with increasing size, increasing risk, longer?
So yeah, so holding longer is my biggest thing, is not selling. And I don't want to say because I see green, that wouldn't be fair to myself to say, but holding for bigger percentage wins, I guess. Like I don't need to use more size. I think I can get more out of the size that I'm using and get more out of my money. And obviously, if sizing up comes with that, that's when, you get those real big days coming. But right now, that's not my focus. As I've always kind of said, that having more money and using more money doesn't make you a better trader. And I think a lot of people get that wrong. And I'm sure you've seen, you've been in the game for 10 years. You've seen people that have lost $10. You've seen people lose 10,000. You've seen people lose 100,000. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't make you a better trader to use more size. But one thing I want to get better about all this, and that I think TradeZella is really going to help me with, and I know it is tracking my progress, seeing that, that average winning trade number go up, and then seeing that average losing trade number stay low, because losses are going to happen. They're part of the game. But
Of course.
as long as we can keep them small, that's my goal. So
I want to go in a day. You want to go in any day? Just hit the drop down in any day you want to go in.
let's see here.
I just want to see probably a trade or two, just to kind of ask questions about it. But no, I mean,
I'm trying to think of what would be a good day to go in. I mean, I don't know. What do you?
Any day you want to go. I don't know what's today. 20. You want to go to?
Let's see here. Let's see if we can find a good one from October, maybe. Boom. Let's go here. Or I'm tripping. This is November. Sorry. There we go. What was a really nice trading day? Not just P&L, but with
I want to see.
I know, I'm trying to let's see here. 20K was good. I don't think my risk management was super well. Let's go here. 7.5K.
Okay.
So I think this day I traded yeah, so this was
you can just hit the drop down. If you go back to daily stats, there's a drop down button, I think. I don't know. Yeah, you can just hit the drop down next to Tuesday.
Where is it?
It's right next to the letter T. Tuesday.
I'm tripping. Oh.
Yeah. The drop down.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just picked a random day. Like, there's some days where I'm getting nice 20% gains, 30%. There's some days where, I'll have a nice, like, ideally I'm getting like 30 to 40%. Like, that's my goal. But there's some days where I'm going in higher size. I'm getting 10, 15%. If it goes back to break even, I'm cutting it. And usually with my losers, I don't like letting losers go. And this is something I'm really good at, is letting losers go any lower than like 15%. If I go down 15%, like 10 to 15%, I'm done. Like, I don't care. I'm out. And that's where I get that, I guess, smaller losing trades from, and having more winning trades. That's like, I guess that's my biggest goal going into 2023 is getting that better.
Nice. Let's go to another day. I think it was last Thursday. If we go to dashboard or whatever, I think it was the 17th. Let me go on the 17th. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
November 2022. Here we go. Boom.
Yeah, let's hit the drop down on that.
Boom.
Yeah, so I'm seeing ES. Oh, you traded futures.
This was just futures, so it's all the numbers are all messed up.
Yeah.
It's TD, and TD is so damn expensive to trade futures on too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So a few things. Yeah, I think you can go to the dashboard. So I wanted to go on to my next question, which you were kind of answering halfway. What are some things you want to improve right now? You said you want to improve your average losing trades, increase your average winning trades, and doing so, how do you plan to do that? I want people to see, because I want to do a follow-up interview with you in like 6 months, maybe 8 months, maybe even earlier, and kind of follow up on you now, and then see the growth in 6 to 8 months and see what you did. So what are those things that you want to work on, and how do you plan to work on them?
So I think part of what I need to do, and I've written a lot of these things down, is that I need to have for one, just in general, it sounds very basic, but more patience, right? I see that, I see that like 20, 30% that fits my system, 40. And, a lot of times I just take my profit and I'm done. Now, I think that something that I preach a lot that I need to work on myself is trimming on the way up. So if I have, 50 contracts, if I have 100 contracts, maybe we trim 50 on the way up, and I really, really stick to my guns and letting those run. So a lot of times if not just myself, but if traders would let their positions run to having those clear profit targets and levels, if you have your technicals down, a lot of times those work out. Now, something that I've been guilty of doing a lot is, since I keep my losers so small, since I have such a tight stop on my losers, I've been guilty of taking my profits too early a lot of times. Now it's, worked out. I traded with a little bigger account, so it's been fine. But one thing I need to do, I think, is maybe even sometimes sizing down more and giving my trade more room to run, and also having a little more wiggle room on my stop loss. I think that's one of my biggest goals. I'm going to stick to having less trades too. I think that's a big thing for me. Is I noticed from a lot of my P&L days, I have, I have a lot more success on days that I take less, more high probability trades. So that's big for me. And honestly, like just journaling, just like really keeping myself accountable, really keeping myself on the same mission every day, looking back on every day. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? Let's visualize it. Let's write it down and let's make myself acknowledge it. And that alone too is gonna, I think gonna help me a lot in getting this average winning trade up, getting this profit factor up, and keeping this average losing trade down.
Nice. Just have a few more questions that I want to end off with. So what's one advice that you'd give yourself if you could go back to day one? And I think you can stop sharing your screen if you want. So the camera can just
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Or stop share. Whoops.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what's one advice you'd give yourself, like if you could go back to day one?
If I could give myself one piece of advice from day one, I think there's like two parts to this. For one, I would say that I need to look at the long-term mission. I need to look at that this isn't going to be easy. I think a lot of social media portrays it as easy when you see big days, but I think I want to go back and tell myself, Jdun, learn the basics, start with price action, learn what support and resistance, supply and demand are, learn, how to read trend, and build a really strong foundation is what I'm getting at. Build the strongest foundation ever so you can build the biggest, most epic house in the entire world on it, which house in this case is related to trading. If you want to build a big mansion, you can't do that on a terrible foundation. It's going to crumble. Well, the same thing applies to trading. If you want to build your trading mansion, you can't do it on technicals, a foundation that's terrible. So I would tell myself that. And I would also tell myself to, start reading more, and doing more, not just reading, but doing more with self-help, doing more with discipline, doing more with bettering my mind and my discipline. Because once you build that and once you commit to that, for myself, at least it's helped my trading a lot. And if I would have done that earlier, it would have cut off a lot of time and a lot of pain from the learning curve. So I think that would be the best advice. And there's a million things I could tell myself, but I think that would be the most straightforward and the most helpful to help myself and hopefully to help others.
Nice. What are your plans going into next year trading wise? Any special goals you have? I know things you're working on, but any special goals you have that you're trying to achieve for next year?
Yeah. So I think my biggest goal, no, I don't like setting, obviously that 7-figure goal a year is amazing, but for myself, I find that when I aim for money goals and even having I say 5K is my daily goal, but there's a lot of days where I make more than 5K. There's a lot of days where I make less than 5K. I don't like aiming for monetary because I think that it takes away from my execution. So if I could say one huge goal I have for next year, it's going to be to, as simple as it sounds, having bigger winners, having smaller losers, and specifically getting more percentage and ROI in my trades and really letting them breathe, position sizing right, letting them breathe, and really focusing on having less trades, but bigger winners. I don't like to, personally, I trade like the first 2 hours of the day, and then I trade sometimes the last hour of the day with the team. I don't like sitting around and trading all day. I don't like sitting around watching charts all day. So for me, I want to find bigger macro picture trades, maybe even get more into swing trading. And obviously this year has kind of been interesting with swing trading. So it's been tougher, but granted the market allows it and has better probabilities for it. I want to get into some bigger swings and some just more high probability setups that might carry a little more risk, but if I manage it right, we'll have much more upside reward. And that's probably my biggest goal for myself, just being more patient with that and letting my trades actually run to their price targets and fulfill that full price target without selling too early and then kicking myself like, dang, I knew I should have held. Well, if you knew you should have held, you should have just held it.
Yeah.
So
no, a big emphasis on not having money goals in trading wise. Even I got caught up in that sometimes. And every time I set money goals is when I perform the worst, right? And this
seriously,
goes a lot of upcoming traders just aim to trade well, aim to improve execution, aim to improve things that need improvement. The moment you set a number attached to that goal is when you start, taking stupid trades and going on tilt and things like that. So very big importance on that for anyone else watching as well.
Huge, the biggest.
Yeah. Before we end, anything else you want to share with people? Any advice you want to give? Anything at all?
No, I think the biggest advice I would give someone is, again, build a strong foundation and to just look at the big picture. Like you can buy a million courses, you can buy, a million different monitors. But the reality is that what's going to make you a better trader is taking accountability and time. So getting the right education, getting yourself, focusing every day, not treating it like a side hustle, not treating it like a hobby. Now, eventually, once you learn, you have that freedom to do it less. And it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you learn, obviously you have to tune up sometimes, but you're going to know how to a sense and what fits your strategy. But you can't just treat this like a joke and expect to have excellent results. It takes 4 years to get a bachelor's for teaching. It takes 7 years to become a lawyer, 10 years to become a doctor. With something as difficult as trading, and that can be as lucrative as trading, like it's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of effort on your part, and it's going to take a lot of consistency, discipline, and just a relentless effort every single day while you're learning to learn the right way, to stay disciplined and to follow those rules. And I think that starts too with something like TradeZella, with something like journaling, with holding yourself accountable and really taking responsibility for that everyday learning. Are you getting better every day? Are you learning, or are you dying every day? So that's kind of what you got to ask yourself. And I think personally, if I would have started taking it more seriously earlier, I'd probably be on that next phase already. And that's the past. We can't change the past. But
I said the same thing. Yeah, I said the same exact thing. I'm like, I wish I took trading a lot serious. I didn't start taking it serious until maybe year 3, like serious. And I'm like, I wish I did. It would have been so much better. And that's why I tell people, same exact thing that you're saying, start taking it serious and really serious, like not showing up and putting on a few trades and then calling it a day. Actually, dedicating yourself to this. Like you said, it's do or die, this or nothing, and just committing to that.
And I think too, a lot of people say that they want, and I've been in these shoes. I've been a lot of people years ago too. So I'm talking about myself back in the day, say that they are super dedicated to this and that they want it more than anything, but like you won't take the time to, even do something as little as tracking your trades, even doing something as little as writing down, 5 things you did right, 5 things you did wrong, even doing as little as, spending that extra 20 minutes a day to, recap the day. How did I do? How did I feel? And so I think if you want to make it in something as difficult and potentially lucrative and, freedom giving as trading, it's going to take that same effort to get those same results you want. You get out what you put in.
Yeah.
And, it's not just because it's internet and you see some guy online making 10K, it doesn't mean it's just, easy, right? Yeah. That's not what it is. And I think that's a common misconception and something that, once you start trading, you're going to learn very quickly.
Of course. No, I agree with that 100%. But with that being said, I want to say thank you so much for your time, man. There's a lot of value in this interview. I hope people, watching take down a bunch of notes. Once again, pleasure having you on here. Thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much for having me. Not to get all cheesy, but one of the first people I saw trading, and honestly, it changed my life seeing all that and learning. And this is an amazing platform. People are going to be blessed to be able to use it and hopefully tap in and take accountability for their trades. So
appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm going to team.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to put down your Instagram, Twitter, YouTube too. So everyone, on here, check him out. A lot of great content, a lot of great information, straight to the point, no fluff, none of that. So appreciate you in the trading community. And thank you for offering so much value, man. Speak to you soon. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks.